Welcome to another episode of Time, Talent, Treasure Radio from Stewards Planning Group. Stewards Planning Group is a company that specializes in helping you build purposeful retirement plans, custom plans that not only help clients steward their treasure, but also their time and talent as well. They believe if you're taken care of financially, you can go even further to make the family, community, and kingdom impact you truly desire to make, which is the ultimate purpose of wealth. If you'd like to set up a no-cost, no-obligation meeting with one of their financial advisors, please give them a call at 222-4236. You can request a meeting at stewardsplanning.com, or you can simply stop by their office on 19th Avenue Southwest in Wilmer.
Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Time, Talent, Treasure Radio. I'm your host, Ben Taatjes, and like most weeks, I'm joined with a co-host today in the studio. I'm joined by Tim Mattern, one of our financial advisors. Tim, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Ben. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing good. You know, it feels like summer's moving so fast, and after the 4th of July now, we kind of move into getting closer to the end of the summer, which is very scary for me because I have a daughter who's going to be a senior this year, and that's my youngest. So going to be empty nester here in about a year. It's kind of scaring me, but other than that, I'm having a great summer. But I think everybody, as they go through life, there's certain things you get towards the close of a season, and there's always another season coming. So I keep reminding myself of that, and my wife keeps nudging me too, saying, yeah, it'll be okay.
Don't look past this summer. It is still midsummer, but yes, I agree. It does go quick.
It is for sure. So one of the things that happened this summer, of course, it ties right into most people's finances, is that the Senate Finance Committee introduced its reconciliation tax legislation June 16, and actually we did June 27. They got a change to this new one big beautiful bill. In July 1, the Senate passed, and now after July 4th, President Trump, when he signed this bill into law, we have the one big, beautiful bill. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Last week we teed it up a little bit, kind of talking about, what's significant about this bill, what's going on, and for our listeners today, this is a big deal. I think this is going to impact many of you, and I think some of the impact is, can I say it this way, is it how it's not going to impact you? And I think that's a key thing, because had they not passed this is something that people don't realize. It's like, had they not passed this, we were going to reset. We were going to actually go back, and we were going to have the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, right? That was going to be expired at the end of the year. And that would have been a significant tax increase to most Americans. And in my opinion, not a good thing. So what this bill did is it kind of made sure that we could keep a number of those provisions, extend them permanently, quote unquote. Yep. And then we made some changes in addition to that. So what I want to do today, Tim, we don't have a lot of time, so we're not going to go deep in the weeds, but we're going to spend a couple of the highlights. What are the things that you think make the biggest difference as far as the extensions of the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and then also changes from there? So maybe just start, like, how big of a deal is it that the standard deduction stayed as big as it is? And where were we at prior? So this goes back before the 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, and how did that make a difference for most Americans?
Yeah, I think that's one of the most significant areas, and we'll go over the other two, but I mean, specifically the standard deduction, we're at $31,000 this year, $31,500 for couples, that is. And back in 2016, prior to the 2017 Act, we were at $12,700. Dramatic difference. So then in 2017, that increased to $24,000. So we saw that immediately go, which at that point completely shifted the landscape of how planners and tax professionals work with their clients and say, hey, how do we take care of this? And how do we make our situation better? Charitable giving, bunching, those types of things. You started hearing all these ways to say, hey, we have this massive deduction that's going to be a benefit to you. And now we're seeing that extend out indefinitely at this point. I mean, that's a critical and that's a big deal for us in the planning industry.
Yeah, it's a huge number. I mean, and you look at that, and when they more than doubled, right, that standard deduction, it made it so that far less people itemized deductions. So let's go back just a bit, Tim, and I think that's the thing that I want our listeners to hear. So the big difference, when you go and do your taxes, you kind of are forced to make a decision based on your financial situation. Do I itemize or do I use a standard deduction? Mm-hmm. Standard deduction being so low like it was in 2016 and earlier, what goes into the standard deduction? Well, you get 4 major areas, right? You get deductible mortgage interest. Okay, that gets added in there. You get state and local taxes, income taxes, property tax, that type of thing. Medical, but medical has to be over 7.5% of your AGI, so a lot of people don't get that. Yep. And then charitable giving. Mm-hmm. So really the total of all of those things only had to be in excess of, let's say, $12,000 to $13,000 in the past. Now, for you to itemize the total of all of those, which for most people ends up being interest paid, the state and local taxes, and charitable giving, because a lot of them don't have the medical over 7%, has to be over $30,000. Yeah. So what happens is a much more simplified tax code, meaning people don't have to. A lot of people don't end up itemizing. Mm-hmm. Now, you may still use some charitable deductions on your state Minnesota return. There's some other things that you want to make sure your tax preparer knows of, but I think it's worth noting how big of a deal this was for most taxpayers, certainly Minnesota, but all over the United States of America. So I think it's a very positive thing, seeing that going forward. The other thing that I want to note, and I know you had came in saying, let's highlight the tax brackets, because as planners, understanding where the tax brackets are and getting some consistency to that is also very, very important. So the extension of those and actually extending those very large, low, those first few brackets are both very large, and the income tax on those is fairly low as well. Maybe walk us through that.
Yeah, so I'm just going to read numbers quickly, but so we had the 10% bracket was there. And if we look back to prior to the 2017 Act, the 12% bracket was 15%, and that's where a lot of Americans, again, fit into that bracket, I would say. Then the following one was 25%, which is now 22%. So we would have gone back up another 3%, and then we finish off with the 24% was 28%, and then we kind of cap out about 39.6% was the tax bracket back in 2016, and now that's at what we see as 37% today. And so what that does is it allows us to be more aggressive with tax planning with their tax professional. But I think the biggest thing is we see that they also increase the amount of income that can go in there. So annually, they do a cost of living increase on each of these numbers. So we've seen those expand too. So now more dollars are fitting into those brackets, which has been beneficial to the American people, obviously, too.
Love it. So the tax brackets got extended and are larger again. And the deductions, right, that standard deduction went up. That's another permanent increase, and actually went up to 31.5 for joint filers. And then the other thing we didn't mention, which is great, we deal with a lot of senior citizens. We help people with retirement. Of course, that's part of what we do. They temporarily added a senior deduction of $6,000 for qualified individuals. Now it's subject to some income limitation stuff, so talk to your tax preparer about that. But I know there's so many things that were extended that allowed for better planning. The last one, there's tons, but the last one we're talking about today, it has to do with estate tax and kind of giving us some certainty now as we move forward. Yeah,
I think that the numbers, again, are large that you're speaking about when it comes to the estate tax exclusion, and that's right now 13.99 federally. And that would have gone back down to roughly $7 million had we not had this new bill come into play. And for, obviously, we're in a rural community. Farming is big, and there's business owners. And so that number, although seems large, there are people that, that affects them. And so having that be there, it's a little bit of a, I would say, safety net, and allows them in a cushion to hopefully not have a lot of their estate taxed.
Yeah,
for their heirs, I should say.
Yeah, for sure. And I think as Minnesotans, we look at our Minnesota legislature and we look at their estate tax, and of course that number's dramatically lower. So there's still a lot of planning that needs to happen. But at least from a federal standpoint, yes, a lot of people really can appreciate the changes there. So we kind of ran out of time today. Lots of numbers, lots of things. Next week we're going to go into more details again, covering more of this. But part of stewardship is making sure that I feel like the government, like we all like roads, we all like some of what they do, but in my mind, part of stewardship is making sure that you can steward it better than the U.S. or Minnesota government. So let's save as much tax as we can. So until next week, steward well.
Do you need help stewarding your time, your talent, or your treasure? If so, Stewards Planning Group can help. Now is the time to set up a no-cost, no-obligation meeting. You can do this one of three ways. Number one, give them a call right now at 222-4236. You can request a meeting online at stewardsplanning.com, or you can just stop by their office located on 19th Avenue Southwest in Wilmer. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of Time, Talent, Treasure Radio. We'll see you next time.
Securities offered through Avantax Investment Services. Member FINRA SIPC. Investment advisory services offered through Avantax Advisory Services. Insurance services offered through an Avantax affiliated insurance agency.